Hey folks, I'm Rupali, your host, and welcome back to Crime Hack. Raj and Sandy split up the leads to investigate in order to save time. Raj finds out that people mounting cameras in the city had lied, and so they must be involved in some criminal activity. He also discerns that Priya was kidnapped and kept in the same creepy old mansion where Sandy was attacked and kept. His work thus complete, he heads towards the rendezvous point. On the other hand, Sandy goes to investigate the catacombish tunnels, but as soon as he begins, he is ambushed again. With chili powder in his face and 6 to 7 assailants to fight off, he pretends losing consciousness. Seeing him unconscious, the gang lets down its guard and they talk about a cave in front of Sandy. He is then bound hands and feet and is carried inside the catacombish tunnels where the gang splits up for work while one wild guy stands guard. And now, Nayak Brothers and the Mystery of the Catacombish Tunnels by Rupali Rajapathe Roti, Part 37. The next thing Sandy knew, 3 powerful kicks came in succession without warning and turned the side of his abdomen into a fireball. With the air suddenly knocked out of him, Sandy found it extremely difficult to breathe through the gag still in his mouth. Losing control over his body, he could no longer pretend to be unconscious and rolled over to his side. Slowly, he felt the pain creep in and he moaned under the gag, involuntarily pulling his legs closer to cover his stomach. "Ha ha! Welcome back, punk. Welcome to hell." The man squatted down next to Sandy and pulled his hair to raise his head out of the water. "Enjoying your little adventure now? Huh?" With his neck and hair straining and eyes still tightly shut to endure the pain, Sandy felt the man's rough, mocking voice close to his ear. "Oh, out of breath, are you now? Poor baby." Sandy opened his eyes defiantly to see the maniac attacking him. It was the guy from the Katra Sinhagad trek route, the one whose picture Raj had shown him the other day. Only this time, his eyes were shining with maniacal rage and amusement. Sandy was still breathing heavily. "What if I pinch your nose?" Saying so, the maniac squeezed Sandy's nose and Sandy convulsed violently to free himself. At the same time, he wriggled his wrists frantically to loosen the bonds. He would certainly die if he wasn't able to defend himself soon enough. But as the clock ticked, his movements slowed down drastically and the maniac's face blurred into darkness. He lost track of whether he was able to free himself or not. And just when he was about to pass out, the man released him. "That was for knocking me down back there." The maniac spat out viciously, but Sandy couldn't comprehend the meaning of these words just yet. He simply lay there, completely exhausted and weak, his arms still under him and his legs stretched out. And the next blow came almost immediately. The man stood up and kicked Sandy in the stomach and said, "Your friend also knocked me. He's killing me." The maniac's sentence got lost in the noise of Sandy's throbbing temples. Another kick followed, then another. The maniac just wasn't stopping. In spite of the excruciating pain, which was accentuated by the acute lack of breath, Sandy tried to roll away, in the process avoiding another kick which nicked him on the leg. The man wouldn't leave him be and advanced leisurely, watching him squirm away. He was now babbling something that sounded like a distant whisper. "I lost the supplies I was carrying." The man squatted down again and Sandy tensed. "I was forced to use my money to buy another load." He grabbed Sandy's shirt and pulled him closer, so they were almost nose to nose now. A stab of fear pierced through Sandy's heart, and the man continued. "And I had to lug the whole heap once again to the cave." Sandy was hardly paying any attention. He could only feel the agonizing pain all over his body and the tension growing every second. He's gonna kill me now, he thought. Wait, probably not. Kill me? No. Kill me? Every passing second was playing games with his mind, and yet a small part of him simply didn't care anymore. Presently, the man released him and sat down, resting his hands on his knees, and Sandy breathed a sigh of relief. The moaning started again, this time coupled with rolling from side to side. The pain was getting unbearable. The man looked over at Sandy, amused and satisfied. One kick knocks you unconscious and the other brings you back, huh? He scoffed. I bet another kick will set you rolling back to your creator. But if he would have known better, he would have understood that with all that moaning and rolling from side to side that had begun, Sandy had again started working on his wrists beneath him to free himself from the bonds that Tushar had so generously tied loose. The man looked thoughtful now. By the way, how did you find this place? He tapped his chin melodramatically and then continued. Yeah, you must have spied that stupid Tushar, I'm sure. Bloody pain he is, I tell you. And now boss may punish all of us for his stupidity. He seemed to think further, then said, or maybe not. Saying so, he pulled out a big knife and examined it thoughtfully. I will finish his story. Sandy had heard metal grating metal as the knife was pulled out of its holder, and he stopped moving. A chill ran up his spine when he saw the blade. What's he going to do now? He wondered nervously. Just then, the maniac noticed him, and a cruel smile swept across his face. Slowly bringing the blade near Sandy's cheek, he saw him cringe backwards into the slimy water. Sandy's breathing grew heavier till the cold metal touched his very hot cheek, and then it stopped. Moving the blade over Sandy's face and then dropping it to the neck, the maniac whispered, You like it? Sandy closed his eyes and looked away. He didn't want the maniac to see the fear in his eyes and mock him further. So he started rolling in the murky water again, and the maniac was forced to remove the blade and tuck it back in. It was just a matter of time before Sandy's hands came loose. The man was still at ease, chatting his heart out. You really seem to be a tender flesh boy. Still hurts, does it? And this will hurt too. Sandy revolted without a word and landed a hard left on the man's jaw, but it wasn't as powerful as it would have been in other circumstances. The maniac tumbled to the side, and Sandy immediately removed his gag and breathed contentedly. The man turned, enraged, and charged at Sandy, who, taking support of his hands, flew both his legs at the advancing assailant and kicked him in the chest. The man splashed backward into the scant water. Working furiously at the bonds holding his legs, Sandy freed them in no time. Then, rolling on his hands, he hurled a kick at the man's temple, and the man dropped unconscious once again. Sandy lay breathing heavily for a while. He was feeling very weak and tired. No one was around, and he could hear the familiar scraping sound deep within the tunnel. Rubbing his stomach gently, he then got up and secured the unconscious man with the ropes that were around his wrists and ankles a moment ago. Giving a final touch of the gag, he inspected his handiwork. Pulling the flashlight out of his sock, he found an opening in the distance. With his knees still weak and shaking, he dragged the unconscious man toward it. Entering first, he found that the opening led to a non-functional fountain this time and hit the maniac's limp form just beyond the opening, out of sight. Even though he felt weak and wanted to go home and rest, he really wanted to find out what that scraping noise was. I will revive eventually, he told himself. Determined as ever, he cautiously approached the source of the sound. Before long, he saw a flicker of light in the distance and hurriedly switched off his own flashlight. Approaching further, he saw a man holding a torch in his hand, showing the light around and barking orders. 3 men toiled with shovels on a pile of debris. Sandy instantly recognized the voice of the boss. The work seemed to be going in full swing, and Sandy remembered Professor Matei's words. The tunnel has caved in various places. Sandy didn't dare to go any further, lest he got caught again. Hurry up, the boss was saying. We are already running behind schedule. The more we dig, the better chances we have at getting away. Oh, so they are going to use this tunnel to get away, not dig out a treasure? But get away from what? And why? God, what the hell is the sweet reward then? Instead of getting answers to the known puzzles, new questions were popping up like bubbles. Sandy waited there, watching and thinking, when suddenly he realized that a lot of time had passed and that he should get going and warn Raj before it's too late. He found an opening nearby and slipped out of it. He noticed that the hinges to all the openings were well oiled now and made no noise whatsoever. He now found himself standing in another public water tank. Jumping out, he headed straight to a phone booth. From his sock, he pulled out the plastic pouch that contained a 10-rupee note. Getting some change from the shopkeeper, he dialed Raj's number. Namaskar friends, hope you are watching our other videos too that talk about crime, business, psychology, funny bits and motivational short stories. Please do subscribe and let us know what you think. You can also tell us what topics you want us to create videos on. We will definitely work on them. Keep sharing your love with us, keep safe, support us on Patreon, connect with us if you are an expert and want to share your wisdom on our channel. See you soon in our next video. Namaskar.